video, we'll be going over volume of cylinders and prisms. So here the directions want us to label the heights in diameter or the radiuses on each picture. So looking here at this first picture, we have a cylinder. And on this cylinder, your base is going to be this circle here. So after we've identified our base, next let's go ahead and identify the height and or the diameter or radius. So looking at this base here, I have a line only going halfway on my base. So that tells me that this is going to be my radius since it only goes halfway. Now, this line going from the center of my base to the opposite base, this is going to be my height. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and take a look at this shape here. This is going to be my rectangular prism. Now, remember, your prism is always going to be the bottom of your rectangular prism. Your base is always going to be the bottom. So this is my base. And the height of my prism is going to be the distance between both bases. So I have a base on the bottom, and then I'll also have a base on the top. So this is going to be your height. Now, typically, you would need to know the formula for the area of your base, which for a rectangle is base times height. But you've known a different formula for a very long time, which is length times width. So what I like to recommend to students is to do length times width times height to find the volume of a rectangular prism. Then we have a cylinder here. So again, my base is going to be here. You can highlight your base. And on this base, I'm going to go ahead and draw a line only going halfway. And this line, since it only goes halfway, this is your radius. And this line, since it goes all the way across your base, this is your diameter. Now for the other side, remember the distance between both of your bases is known as your height on a cylinder. Then we're going to go ahead and take a look at this cylinder here. Again, I'm going to go ahead and identify my base, which is up top here. And on my base, I only have a line that goes halfway. So again, this is going to be an example of my radius. Then from the center of my base to my second base, this is known as my height. Then we're going to go ahead and look at this. This is half of a cylinder. And on this half cylinder, we have a line that goes all the way across. So this is going to actually be your diameter. So if you are given your diameter, to find your radius, you would take your diameter and divide it by 2. And half of 10 would be 5. And then again, your height would be the distance between both of your bases. So we have a base at the very back, and then we have a base up front as well. So the distance between them would be 15, and this would be your height. Then on this net, we have a rectangular prism. Now again, remember your bases are the flaps that stick out of your net. So that is your base. And remember, I like to use length times width for if I were to have to find the area of my base. But if you were looking at your formula chart, it would say base times height. But I'm going to go ahead and do length times width. Now, the distance between my two bases here would be known as my height. So this would actually be the height of my prism between these two. Then we're going to look at this can of tuna. So the top of this would be my base. And if I were to do a line only going halfway on the top of that tuna can, this would be my radius. And if I had a line going all the way across, that would be an example of its diameter. Now, again, the distance between both of your bases is going to be the height of your cylinder. Then we look at this rectangular prism. So again, remember on a rectangular prism, your base is always on the bottom. Now, since my base is on the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and label this side as the length and this side as the width. Now, the distance between my bases, so I have a base on the bottom and I'll have a base on the top of my rectangular prism, which would be the height. That would be the distance between them, which would be my height. Then I have a net of a cylinder. So again, the circles that stick out of my net, these would be my bases. And for example, here, I'm going to have a line only going halfway, which would be my radius. And this line goes all the way across, so this is the diameter. Now, the distance between both of your bases, again, remember, is known as your height. So that is volume of cylinders and prisms on the front page. Let's go ahead and look at a couple of examples. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this first example. So we want to find the volume of this cylinder. So on this cylinder, we have a diameter of 8, and we know this is the diameter because it goes all the way across the top of our base. So again, on a cylinder, our base is a circle here. So my diameter equals 8. Right? And to find your radius, you have to take 8 and divide that by 2. Because remember, your radius is half of your diameter. And 8 divided by 2 equals 4. Now, the height of your cylinder is going to equal 5. So again, the shape of our base is a circle. And now we need to know the formula for area of our base. Now remember that big B stands for area of our base. So we're going to look on our formula chart for area, and the formula for area of a circle is going to be pi times r squared. So going back over here, we're going to write pi times r squared. So using this information, we know that r equals 4. So we have pi times 4 squared. So going into our calculator now, we're going to type pi times 4 squared, which equals 50.2655. We're going to go ahead and round this to the 10th place. So this 6 will actually round up the 2, and we're going to get 50.3. So here the area of our base is 50.3. Now, the formula for volume of a cylinder, if you were to look at your formula chart, volume of a cylinder is volume equals big B, which stands for the area of our base, times our height. So here we have V equals big B times little h. So the area of our base times the height of our prism. So for big B, we have 50.3. So we're going to go ahead and substitute that in for B. So 50.3 times the height of our prism, which is 5. So now plugging that into our calculator, 50.3 times 5 equals 251.5. So the volume for this cylinder is 251.5. Our unit is centimeters. And now that we're finding volume, our unit is going to be cubed. So that is our first example. Let's go ahead and look at our second example. So for our next example, we have another cylinder. So first, let's identify the shape of the base of our cylinder, which again is going to be this circle. So the shape of our base is a circle. And we want to know, what is the formula for area of our base? What is the formula for area of a circle? So again, going to our formula chart, we go to the section for area, we go down to circle, and it shows that the formula for area of a circle is pi times r squared. So we're going to write pi times r squared. So now we need to identify our dimensions. So here, this goes all the way across our circle. So this lets us know this is our diameter. So our diameter equals 3. Now remember, to find our radius, we have to take half of our diameter. And half of our diameter, half of 3 is 1.5. Now the height of our base is the height of our prism is the distance between both of our bases. And the distance between both of our bases here is going to be 6. So now let's go ahead and find the area of our base. So we already have the formula, which is pi times r squared. So we have pi times 1.5 squared. So let's go ahead and plug that into our calculator. We have pi, and remember the pi symbol is right next to the letter h. So we have pi times 1.5 squared. And press enter. We get 7.06858. Again, we're going to go ahead and round this to the tens place. So we're going to look at the second decimal place. We have a 6, which tells us we're going to round the tens place up to a 1. So here the area of our base is 7.1 centimeters squared. Then I'm going to go ahead and plug this into the formula for area of a cylinder, which is volume equals big B, which stands for the area of our base, times the height of our prism. So the area of our base is 7.1 times the height of our prism, which is going to be 6. So 7.1 times 6 is going to equal 42.6. So here the volume for this cylinder is 42.6 centimeters cubed because we're talking about volume. Okay, that is the first, that's our second cylinder. Let's go ahead and look at the third shape. So for the third shape, we have a rectangular prism. And we're going to go ahead and identify the base of our prism. And remember, the base of a rectangular prism is always on the bottom. So here, the shape of our base, which is going to be big B, again, is a rectangle. Now remember, there are a couple different formulas you can use for area of a rectangle. If you were to go to area on your formula chart and you go to rectangle, we would get area equals little b times little h, which stands for the base of our rectangle and the height of our rectangle. However, I find that to kind of be a little confusing whenever it comes to the formulas for volume, because here you have big B times little h, which stand for different things. So here, to eliminate some confusion, I would go ahead and use length times width. So looking at our base, I'm going to go ahead and identify 3 as my length, 2 as my width, and the distance between both of our bases. So we have a base on the bottom and we're going to have a base on the top, is going to equal 6. So here my height is 6. So here my length is 3, my width is 2, and my height is 6. So first, we're going to go ahead and find the area of our base. So we're going to take our length times our width. 3 times 2 equals 6. And we're going to plug 6 into for the area of our base, which is 6, times the height of our prism, which is also 6. 6 times 6, if you did not know, equals 36. So here, the volume for this rectangular prism is going to equal 36 centimeters cubed. Again, because we're talking about volume. So volume is cubed. That's going to be that rectangular prism. Now let's go ahead and look at our last shape. So on this shape, we have half of a cylinder. And on this cylinder, this is its base here. It is half of a circle, but again, the shape of this base is a circle. And we want to know, what is the formula for area of a circle? So again, going to our formula chart, we're going to go down to the section for area, go down to circle, and we see here that the formula for area of a circle is pi times r squared. So here I'm going to substitute, or I'm going to put this here for the formula for area, which is pi times r squared. So now we need to know, what are the dimensions of our cylinder. So going here, I see that this line goes all the way across my shape. So this lets me know that 10 is actually the diameter of this cylinder. And we need to know our radius. And again, we find radius by dividing the diameter by 2. So 10 divided by 2 is going to equal 5. And then I want to know, what is the height of this cylinder. And again, the height is going to be the distance between both of your bases. So I have a base back here and a base over here as well. The distance between these bases is going to equal 15. So now we can go ahead and find the area of our base. So for the area of our base, we have pi times our radius, which is 5 squared. So now in your calculator, type pi times 5 squared and press enter. We get 78.5398. Now again, we want to round to the tens place. So this 3 is actually going to leave the 5 alone. So the area of our base is going to equal 78.5. Now we're going to take that number, substitute it into the formula, which again is V equals the big B, which stands for the area of our base. So in this case, the area of our circle, times little h, which stands for the height of our prism. So the area of our base we found was 78.5 times the height of our prism, the height of our cylinder, which is 15. So now we take 78.5 times 15, and that equals 1,177.5. But this, again, is half of a cylinder. So the answer we get here, we are actually going to go and divide that by 2. Dividing that by 2, we find the volume for this half cylinder is going to be 588.75. And my unit here is meters. And since, again, we're talking about volume, this is going to be cubed. And that completes your notes on volume of cylinders and prisms.